Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for another episode of Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna. I am super excited. I am joined by a very special lady today, one of my gorgeous clients, Mac McGregor. Hello, Mac, and a warm welcome. Tell people what it is that you do in the world.
Hi, I do the Akashic Records. An Akashic Record healing, exploring different subjects, which is fascinating. Dragon Reiki, I'm learning Holy Fire Reiki, angel card reading, and what else do I do? Oh yes, the 13th rite of the Moon Key, which is really honouring women's wombs.
Beautiful.
And the life and that effects that they have. What else do I do? I think I've missed out a few things. I'm also an artist, of course. Yes, and I use chewed gum, which is a very unusual material to use.
Amazing. So tell people a little bit about your journey of, if somebody's listening to this and doesn't know very much about you, your journey, you've had an absolutely extraordinary journey to get to this point of, it's fair to call you a healer, right?
Yes.
And that you are working with helping and healing other people, and it's fair to call you a healer, intuitive. You work in a very organic, psychic way. You work with Akashic Records and everything like that. But that wasn't always the case. It's almost like you've had this very big sort of transition from more the Muggle world into the spiritual world. Tell people a little bit about your extraordinary story.
Well, it was always intuitive, and I've always done intuitive art and use my analytical skills as well, but I've been told a couple of times that I was psychic, and I kind of thought, I'm not quite sure about that, and frankly there were overwhelming experiences, so I kind of put that to the side. And then I was disabled, followed by an infection which I never recovered from, which ended up that I was bedbound for 7 years. And at my worst, I wasn't able to speak, write, or draw. And my cognitive function was incredibly slow. So something like 4 hours felt like half an hour to me.
Okay.
So I was in my bed and I created artworks in my head and poetry, which was a way to keep me sane. But at the same time, my ex-husband, just let's say that his behavior wasn't conducive to creating a very loving environment for me. And when it escalated, I had told him that if you don't change your behavior, that I will leave. And he laughed at me. I said, trust me, I have somewhere to go. And I knew that there was a possibility that I could end up very ill, or yes, I won't go to that place, but yes, it was very scary. But I felt I needed to do that, and I had a rescue place arranged if I needed to do that.
So you have lived a full and normal life, and then you become ill and then get this infection that you never recover from, which then leaves you bedbound for 7 years.
Yeah.
You're creating this artwork, you're creating these poems and things like that in your mind to literally stop you from losing your mind.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, the behavior of your husband is escalating and becoming abusive.
Yeah.
And in all of that, well, in that situation of being bedbound and everything, you make this vow to him that you would leave him if he doesn't kind of start to decide to change or treat you better. And of course, we've heard he's your ex-husband.
Yes.
So, spoiler alert, you do leave him. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, because, what is it like to be bedbound and to have to have a serious medical condition, and then to do something as life-changing and as big as that, to have the courage for that. What was kind of at the time, obviously, and you've even talked about your cognitive function being affected and everything being slowed down and stuff like that. So what does the reality of something like that look like?
It's survival, primarily survival. And then, but that's not enough. That's not enough to go day by day, year by year. I don't know about anybody else, but I needed more. Excuse me, my voice is going.
It's okay.
I needed more. Because being sensitive to touch, being sensitive to noise, being really sensitive to light, so we're spending a lot of time in the dark, and just someone moving past you felt disorientating. It was difficult. And I don't know why, but my brain was like finding a way, and also to deal with the loss about not being able to draw. I'm an artist. I spent my life doing art and not being able to draw, not being able to speak and express myself. And then when I was able to speak, it was very kind of like, I'll give you an example, that my ex-husband would come into the room, ask me a question, tick, 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 and then he would stand there for a little while and then walk out, and he was just about to open the door. I would go, and attempt to answer him, and it was very sluggish, and quite often it was point and sort of sign language in a.
So take your brain such a while to engage, and he obviously took that as you being rude and not answering him, but you were waiting for your mind to catch up to actually engage with being able to. Oh my goodness. So tell us a little bit about what happened afterwards. You had you had an organization that was giving you counseling that was only in 10-minute bursts.
That's right, 10 minutes a week. That's all I could manage, and that was very slow. So I just remember that I was really proud of myself, that when I described my husband's behavior, I did it almost like as if an observer had witnessed it without the emotion in it. And I'd spoken to several people over a period of time, and then I realized that he was abusive, that I didn't trust my own feelings about how I felt because they were poo-pooed, too sensitive.
There was a lot of gaslighting.
Absolutely, a lot of gaslighting. definitely a lot of gaslighting. And I remember just howling with the pain of that and recognizing my part that I played in that, which was really, really difficult.
That's a hard mirror to look into when you realize that, but I mean, that is the thing with psychological abuse as well, right? Isn't it? That's the thing, isn't it? That you end up blaming yourself and you end up thinking it's your fault, and you think you're crazy, right? Like, it must be because the person's turning around and they're gaslighting. And when, let's say, another set of society who are liars fess up, that's when you challenge them, that's when a liar would fess up and say, oh yeah, okay, you caught me, I didn't want to, I didn't want to hurt you or whatever, so I told a white lie. A liar will fess up. Somebody who's gaslighting, they won't fess up. They'll double down on, you're crazy. It's now the issue is not with them anymore, the issue is with you. And so you're going through all of this. So we finally get to leave that situation. What does it look like getting back to recovering health? What does that journey begin to look like?
Well, first I was in hospital for 6 months, and then the team asked me if I wanted to stay in the hospital under their care. And excuse me again, I've gotten a bit of infection, so my voice is affected. Or to go to the Marillac nursing home, which had beautiful grounds. I would have my own room, a door out to the outside that I could sit with chairs and tables in the summer and things like that. And I remember my social worker coming in and saying, we need to find a really nice room. She's an artist, she needs a good view. So I had this beautiful water feature just outside my room, and it was wonderful being able to step out and have, meals outside. It was absolutely wonderful. But I was still having to rest a lot of the time. So a lot of the time I was bedbound, and I had a little electric wheelchair to get around most of the time, and a little bit of walking, which I practiced. And then after that, I went to stay in Sandaker near my sister. And I had care every day and spent a lot of time actually on the couch rather than the bed, because lying on a bed makes me feel ill. So I prefer to lie on the couch just to meditate. But I was still getting a lot of care, and I was still bedbound, as you would describe it, most of the time. And I decided it was, that was the time to leave. We did do counselling together, and I was surprised that he did it, but it wouldn't acknowledge any of his behaviour. I can't go back to someone who's not prepared to acknowledge the behaviour. So I decided to divorce him, which took 6 years as he contested it.
Okay. So let's say that was probably the roughest catalyst into starting to look down spiritual routes.
Yeah, it was just amazing. I mean, I have to pinch myself at how I managed to find that courage, because I really thought I was a scaredy cat, and a lot of times I can be, but at the same time, that just showed that I had and have a lot of courage.
Oh my God, it's next level courage. I mean, I think anybody leaving a partner, anybody leaving a husband or a wife, or anybody leaving a long-term relationship takes courage. But to do that under the circumstances of extreme vulnerability, it just floors me. It's absolutely awe-inspiring. I mean, it just floors me. So tell us how your spiritual side began to develop, because this literally feels like the catalyst for great change in a way.
Well, I kind of moved to Glasgow and kind of settled in there, or settled in here because that's where I am just now, Glasgow in Scotland. And my mother had died, and I don't know, I was kind of drawn to a few spiritual things, and I kind of went on to some webinars and things, and then gradually I saw Kyle Green's angel cards at Mastery. So I signed up and did that. And I think it was partly to do with my mother, because she loved angels. And it was a way to sort of get more connected to her. And from that, my spiritual gifts, which were just lying there, kind of went pop, 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 pop. Hey.
Amazing. Amazing. And so when did you come into my world? When was that? When did our paths begin to cross?
When, just before the millionaires experiment.
The $1 million experiment.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so you jumped into the $1 million experiment. What were you thinking when you jumped into that experiment? What were you thinking when you saw it for the first time, or were you introduced to it through a friend, or was it?
No, I introduced it to a friend from the Balloons, which is an art group I belong to.
Okay.
And so I went, oh yeah, I'll have a wee peek, and had a wee peek, and I went, this is interesting. This is interesting. Yeah. So I'm afraid I confess I haven't done very much of the millionaires experiment, but I know it's there because I have your book and things like that I can look at when I need to. And then I started exploring, what else did I explore? I did some of your free masterclasses,
Mm-hmm.
the Akashic Record journey, and what else did I do? Oh, the empathy one, before I started.
The empath training.
Yes, the empath training, yes.
Was that an eye-opener for you, the empath training? Did you start to recognize yourself of how you've been absorbing other people's emotions, how you've been picking up their signals, things like that? Was that a huge...
Absolutely. And subsequently, now that I know I'm a human design reflector, means that I not only pick them up, I magnify them. So something might be 1 or 2 in someone's, aura or body, and I will pick it up much higher.
When you went through that course, the empath training that we had, was that validating in a way to actually realize like all of these things? Because obviously you'd had years of gaslighting that had really like helped you to kind of in a way, not helped you, but had caused you to doubt yourself. And then you start to realize like, oh, that I thought that was just in my head, that's a thing. And like, oh, that's a thing. And starting to see yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, yes, it did. And I was like, just reinforcing I didn't trust myself. And that really has helped me to trust myself. So when I'm working with spirit, I just go, okay. And if it's sometimes I like to throw a little extra in, and I go, okay, I'll give it a go. Yeah, which is amazing. I think that really helped me to sort of...
It's really helped to build your confidence.
Absolutely.
So you decided to jump in with me and do your Be Magic year and really just kind of go all in and unfold this epic year that you've had. You found a love that you probably maybe not have found, which is the love of the Akashic Records. You've literally found like a second home there. The feedback that Mac got on the course, because we get all our students to do case studies, the feedback that Mac got was really next level. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, I think you really found a second home in the Akashic Records.
Absolutely. And the way you teach it is so easy and interesting. And I know that sounds terrible, but actually it is. And it really helps you to, again, trust what is going on. And the way you teach it is not giving someone a reading.
Yes.
Of Akashic Records.
Yeah.
And it's your interpretation of that. But actually, they're actually experiencing it themselves, which is amazing. And you're there as a guide to kind of assist and help whatever they need, whatever that person needs to. And the amount of understandings, clarifications, healings that people have managed to gain are just been absolutely amazing.
Amazing. It's such a privilege, I think, to do it the way. So we do Akashic Records here a little bit different. A lot of people teach people just to read the records, and you sit there and you just get a reading, and maybe it resonates, maybe it doesn't resonate. But the way that we do it is we do a shamanic soul journey where we take our clients into the records and they get the experience, right? Which I think really helps to make it so much real, like realer. I made up a word there, but so much realer for our clients, in that they get to really experience that. And that's something that I felt that you are very, very adept at picking up how to guide a person expertly into that record so that they can, it's almost like it's that reflector nature of yours that you can amplify that experience for them, reflect it back to them, and they can gain that next level understanding of maybe where weird little fears came from in their lives, or blocks that they seem to be having in their life right now, or why maybe something is a certain way, or why they've got a problem with a certain person, you know, that clarity that comes from a visit to the Akashic Records.
Absolutely. And it can explore basically anything in your life.
Absolutely. And then the nice thing as well is we teach you also as well to heal in the record. So that was another place where you found a real passion for that, because you're already trained in Reiki, and you know, so that was like a tool, the healing models that we gave you, that was a tool that could combine with things like Reiki as well to help clear that energy for somebody.
Of course, and I even forgot about the LightWeb healing and coaching course, which was amazing. That's another fabulous tool, which has been fabulous working with other people with that. It's just, they've found it so helpful. And I remember one person I was working with, and I said, this couldn't go either way, coaching or healing. Which one would you like? Oh, healing, because I don't want to do the work. And honestly, the amount of work that she did during that session was amazing. She was able to recognize herself and see herself, you know,
so clearly. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, which was just
amazing. So you are launching, so brand new career for you as well. So you are launching your spiritual business very, very soon. Depending on when you're listening to this, it could either be launched or is launching very, very soon in October of 2022. And you're going to be doing healing sessions for people in Akashic Record sessions and group sessions.
Absolutely.
Tell us a bit about your name and kind of where it came from, because we are loving this name.
Well, it was a bit of a co-creation between you and I, because I said there needs to be a mirror in there. It seems to come up when I did the art therapy course. I was asked what sort of role, you know, the therapist plays, and I was like, mirror. I mean, it seemed to be, and I think that's what we do. We mirror back what's actually happening, what we see within the client that we're actually speaking to, the person that we're speaking to. And the angelic part came in because you said, oh yes, I think angels, angelic, because when I remember we were doing a meditation with, and you said, well, bring in an angel to help, and I just said, they all just step forward. And quite often they come to any Akashic journeys that I'm guiding.
Angels definitely work so well with your energy, and they just show up for you.
Yeah,
so
they do.
we came up with the name Angelic Mirror, which I love, and
Which is beautiful.
that's the journey, isn't it? That gentle energy of the angelic energies and the healing energies of the angels. The angels are such powerful healers, and the mirror of really reflecting back to you, and helping you to sometimes your mirror is a little bit mucky, right? And so helping you to give it a little polish and polish yourself back up again and things like that, because life can be tough sometimes, and
Absolutely.
and just helping somebody to see themselves clearly again if they feel like their mirror has gotten a little bit murky, and and just needs that little polish again, and to feel good again and feel sparkly again on the inside.
Absolutely.
So
I think it's amazing about mirrors, because there's so much distortion in how we can see ourselves. I remember going to a fair when I was younger, and it was a hall of mirrors, and the distortions that they created, and it really has a big impact on how you see yourself.
absolutely. Like the distortions that fear creates, for instance, it's just so massive. And it is like those hollow mirrors, you're looking in that mirror and you're seeing those tiny little short legs and that huge long body. And logically, that is not what you look like. And yet at that moment, as you're looking in that mirror, that's what you see. And, so you start to question the reality of what you actually look like. And I know that that's quite a basic example, but I think that's our fascination with halls of mirrors, and those funfair things. Our fascination is with the distortion in the reality, and logically our brains are like, no, we don't look like this. But there is that little element of, isn't it funny to look at ourselves in this way? Isn't it fun? And I think that comes in with the soul, doesn't it? The soul kind of knows itself, but then at the same time, I think the soul finds it quite amusing to look at itself. Look at me, scared, witless. Look at me. Look at me not knowing which way is up and down.
Absolutely.
And it's just helping you to restore back into a true image that you can see of yourself, and your true version, your true self.
Absolutely. And that's my ultimate goal, is to help myself see myself as I truly am, but also in that learning about myself, to be able to support and guide others to do that too, to become who they truly are.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about your plans for the future, because we've got our launch of the Angelic Mirror coming at you. And then tell us a little bit about, what you're going to be up to, like what kind of things are you going to be up to in that? So what have you got for people?
Well, the first group healing is going to be around money. And I am going to Joanna's Sacred Highland Retreat. And that is on my bucket list. So it's like just doing lives that show that, living your life and actually being able to do your bucket list is something that a lot of people might think they would not be able to do, not be able to afford. On the other hand, I'm actually going to be involved in the Flames production, Don't Stop Me Now, and that we don't get paid, and it would cost me to pay for taxis. But again, if that's a money issue, you might consider, oh, I can't go to that because it was going to cost me money. So I'm just looking at the money side of it and our attitudes towards money, and where they are in this life, but also to look at what could be triggering this from a past life, what could be lingering on in this life. So I'm using and plan to use the things that I get involved in, because I'm very eclectic and I love different things. So I'm going to use those in some way to support that month, and I'm planning to do monthly group healings on different subjects, and those will support that in some way.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. So tell people where they can find you on the internet if you've heard this conversation, if you've been inspired by Mac's story, or if you have been going through any type of abuse yourself. We're going to make sure that we put some important links below. We're going to make sure we have Mac's link there as well. But I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from working with Mac and having her in my world is that there's always a way, right? Like, if I hear Mac's story and I think, you know, you were bedridden, like there's so many people that would have just given up at that point and be like, I surrender, like there's just nothing I can do. And yet you never gave up hope and you never gave up. And I think that's like so inspiring. I know for me that is so massively, massively inspiring. You know, to see that you never gave up and things like that, where I think a lot of people, you know, and you would have been completely forgiven for rolling over and being like, it's game over. But instead, you know, have built this life that you're obsessed with, you know, that you're indulging your spiritual side, you have started a brand new career. You know, it's never too, you know, there's always a way. Like that is a lesson that I learn from you every time that we speak. There's always a way. Like there's just always a way. And you know, just like that bucket list that you're talking about, and you are now checking off things that were on your bucket list and stuff, and presumably some of these things have been on your bucket list in years, and you're checking them off and finding the way forward for those, which is absolutely incredible.
Thank you. Okay.
So tell people where they can find you on the internet. Where do you like to hang out? Where's your favorite platform?
You can find me on Facebook if you look up Mac McGregor, that is MAC small c capital GREGOR, and the same spelling on Instagram, which is Mac_McGregor followed by another underscore.
Brilliant. Fantastic. We'll make sure we'll pop all those links below so that you can go and check her out, and hopefully you can go and maybe check out to book one of the healings. And if you want to do some money work with Mac, absolutely amazing. She definitely holds some powerful soul codes for there is always a way. So if you have got big dreams and you're going to need some money for those, then I definitely feel like doing one of her group healings will be amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for yes, having this opportunity to speak with you on this platform. It's a real privilege. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.